The most important thing for me when filming sharks is to try to understand what life is like for them.
Rob Stewart made it his life's mission to protect sharks. His films helped change the way we think of them.
See that they're beautiful and amazing and magnificent and important, then maybe they'd want to fight for their protection like they fight for pandas and elephants and bears.
His documentaries got people talking. He became well known around the world for his activism. And governments began to ban the finning of sharks.
They're loading the shipping container full of tens of thousands of pounds of blue sharks.
The shark hunting industry just moved deeper underwater. Stewart continued his advocacy, traveling across 4 continents, exposing the threat to sharks, until a tragic diving accident ended it all. Stewart died while filming Sharkwater Extinction, but his parents, struggling with their grief, decided to finish Rob's documentary and bring his story to the world. I met up with Sandy and Brian Stewart at their home in Toronto. Watching the film, you do get a sense of what Rob was like. Mm-hmm. But I'm very curious to know, go back even earlier than that. I mean, what was he like as a kid growing up?
He was just always curious, always loved animals, was chasing absolutely everything that moved.
We go up north to a friend's cottage. The first thing he'd do when he got there was he'd be up the car looking in the woods, and he'd come back with some sort of salamander or something. It wouldn't be a frog or a toad.
A water snake.
Or a water snake. You go, how'd you find this? But he always did it.
And the more unusual it looked, the more he actually loved them. He could see the beauty in the most, unusual looking creatures.
And with sharks in particular, was there a moment?
Oh yeah.
For him?
Yeah, he was about 8 or 9, I guess, and we were in the Caribbean, and he met his first reef shark in water, and he was at snorkeling.
Face to face?
Yeah, oh yeah, and he wasn't, he was, he had heard about Jaws and knew about Jaws and all the terror that the media portrays of sharks, and he sees this shark, it's about the same size as him. And the shark looks at him, and they make eye contact, and the shark freaks out and takes off, and Rob goes, he's afraid of me, and I'm just this 8-year-old kid.
So, a lifelong mission began. Rob studied sharks, worked to protect them, and dedicated his life to showing us their mysterious world.
He was on a mission.
He was on a mission, and he stayed on that mission his whole life. And quite honestly, I mean, he was dedicated to thinking that he was on Earth simply to basically showcase how beautiful the ocean really is. And he had to save it. He believed that was his obligation to mankind, to save the ocean. And he spent every waking moment on that mission.
My parents worry all the time, yeah. What I've always told them, I just have this belief that I'm gonna be okay, and I'm sure I'm gonna be okay. And the amount of times that I've almost died and ended up okay have sort of reinforced that belief that I'm gonna be okay. I know exactly how I'm gonna die, when I'm gonna die.
There is a point in the film, a very eerie moment, where he talks about death.
Yeah.
And he talks about you. He talks about the concern that you both had for what he was doing. What was that like for you, first of all, when you...
We had Nick Hector, an award-winning editor, do the edit on this film. And we asked him that, and he said, no, there's no additional sound to that. That was the only thing that he said.
I think, he was the internal optimist. He really was. He believed mankind would rise to the occasion and change our habits and change our thinking on a lot of things. And I think, we used to joke about Rob, come on, have a desk job, come on, take over mom and dad's business or something like that. He had no interest in being behind a desk. So I think when he said that, I think it was more or less him saying, I know how I'm going to go. It's not going to be behind a desk. It's going to be out doing something to help change the world.
This is United States Coast Guard Communications Station, Sector Key West. We request to know if you need assistance. Over.
Watch standards at Sector Key West Command Center. received a report of a missing diver. The diver was identified as 37-year-old Robert Stewart from Toronto, Canada.
I know when you got word that something terrible had happened, you dropped everything. You rushed immediately to Florida. What do you remember about the search?
We got down there as fast as we could. We walked into something that looked like a Star Wars movie, a command center down there, and they were showing us the images and what they had done and the search that was going to happen because the sun was just coming up, and they were adding planes and they had the boats out there. The boat had actually been out there all night. It was 3 days and it's almost a blur.
I said the Coast Guard, if Rob had to swim 20 miles, he could do it. He was that fit, and if he did pass out and he did wake up and the buoyancy device was working or so on, then he could be anywhere.
And I read that at one point they were going to stop the search, but you had a talk.
We heard that normally there was maximum search would be probably 24 hours. Then they said most searches, extended searches, are 48, and we heard they were about to call the search off after 48 hours. And we went and see the head of the Coast Guard, and he's an amazing man, and we said to him, we know you want to call the search off. We need you to search for another day. We have to believe. And I looked at him and said, do you have children? He said, yeah, I got a 27-year-old son and a 23-year-old son. I said, if it was your son, would you stop? And he said, we'll search one more day. And they did.
Rob filmed everything, including his last dive. When it came time for the two of you to pick up where he left off, can you explain that? What was going through your mind?
You're talking about the footage in the last dive. I still haven't been able to watch that.
You
Nick,
just want to stay
no,
away?
I've seen parts of all of the footage. I just haven't seen that continuous footage. But we had Nick Hector put together the edit. And he was the one that took on that monumental task of weeding through the 400 hours and picking it out. Rob left notes, though, mind maps and iPad drawings with each story sequence. The footage that he wanted in each story sequence, the messaging that he wanted that footage to show. So the roadmap was very, very clear for what he wanted to see.
Yeah, he left extraordinary notes. I mean, getting into his computer was a big concern. It was password protected, and we got into his computer with the password gratitude, which tells you oodles about Rob. When we got in there and we started going through his notes and realizing the whole movie's there, doesn't match footage, we don't know. And Nick put together the first rough cut, and we saw that, we said, my God, we have a movie. We have a movie that Rob would be proud of.
I understand how you were able to put the movie together, but I'm not sure I understand why you wanted to put the movie together. I mean, you very easily could have taken all that footage, put it in a safe somewhere, and walked away.
Yeah, not if you knew Rob.
It was the issue's important. It was really important to Rob, and the message is one that I think the world needs to see. And we just felt compelled that we had to finish it. It was something Rob would have wanted.
That was never an option, I think, in our minds. I mean, it was really difficult the first month because Rob's body couldn't come back to Canada for weeks. We didn't know what to do about a funeral. We didn't know any of those things. We had to sort out all that stuff. And that was really emotional. I mean, there's just nothing like it that I could ever imagine happening to us. And going through that and then realizing that he died doing something he loved to do and he was on a mission, we could not finish it. There was never an option not to finish this movie and get the message out. And also, in a sense, honor him with that little segment at the end, and honor his legacy. He was an amazing person. He was my best friend. Sorry. Give me a minute.
We take a break. Rob's parents say they actually haven't had time to properly grieve. They've been so busy. But after a few moments, the Stewarts want to come back and talk about their son and how he created a new mission for them both.
We walked out of our jobs basically that night and haven't been back since. And fortunately, the company's still running, and we think it's still running. But we're on a new mission now. We're going to continue working on what Rob was trying to accomplish, and he inspired so many people to step up, go study marine biology. I mean, we have countless letters from all over the world and saying they saw Sharkwater, 10 years ago. He changed, and when he passed, we got letters in saying he changed my life. I'll never forget him, and I'll always remember him, and I'll continue his mission. So there's disciples, if you want to call them that, all over the world now, picking up the torch.
Well, that feels like a wonderful place to end. Brian and Sandy, thank you so much
for your time.
It's wonderful.
Thank you
talking
so
to
much.